It's not just in player movement that chaos is reigning supreme. It's in broadcast booths throughout the land. Amazon is starting to get into the NFL game. And to debut their broadcast in Thursday Night Football, they're getting a legend in Al Michaels alongside Kirk Herbstreit. This is a huge step for streaming, and I hope it works out. ESPN, on the other hand, has struggled with finding the right announcers for Monday Night Football. Their response was to throw open the checkbook and poach Joe Buck and Troy Aikman from Fox, which is also notable because Buck won't be able to broadcast the World Series with this deal. To replace them on their respective networks, Mike Tirico and Kevin Burkhardt take over top game duties. But unlike this in the AFC, the NFC has suffered one of the worst talent drains it's experienced in its history. No matter what these 16 teams did, they had to feel the wrath of either retirement, attrition, or cap hell. Unfortunately, even with all of this, some things still stay the same. Let's get to it. A wise man once said, "When Dallas loses, America wins." If this offseason were any indication, America's the equivalent of the '72 Dolphins. The Cowboys had a cap situation to deal with and chose to solve it by deleting nearly fucking everything. If it isn't Jerry Jones to completely overreact to a situation instead of realize that they dug themselves into this whole thanks to their insatiable lust for star power. Amari Cooper is a huge cap hit with a minimal penalty, so why not trade him to Cleveland for next to nothing? I'd accept it, but they chose to re-sign a Michael Gallup coming off a torn ACL with the savings? Can't wait to see you trade him for the same return in 2 years' time. Is it any wonder why they had no success trying to trade La'el Collins and had to cut him? What about the situation with Randy Gregory, where they tried to change the stipulations of the contract at the last moment and pissed him off so much that he fucked off to Denver? They nearly did the same goddamn thing to DeMarcus Lawrence. Thank God they managed to salvage that at the last moment. It may suck, but don't feel bad. Once again, Dallas did this to themselves. It's the only reason why they could only sign Dante Fowler as an outside free agent and re-up Leighton Vander Esch and Brian Anger. Thank the Lord they're in an awful division, or else I'd say they'd be doomed. As doomed as they are having to swallow Zeke's contract. Maybe that's what they call feeding the Zeke. The New York Giants are just kinda there right now. I guess you could say it's the beginning of a rebuild, but they aren't doing much to try and shut off the old core if that's the case. They still think Daniel Jones is viable as a starter because the whole city has experienced Stockholm Syndrome due to dealing with horrors beyond our comprehension. Just because you had to suffer through Jake Fromm and Mike Lennon doesn't mean that what you're doing is okay. Friends don't let friends start Danny Derps. You start Tyrod Taylor, wait for him to get injured, and then start Danny Derps. We're just waiting for the shoe to drop with the likes of Saquon and James Bradbury. They might be able to get something for both of them, you know? It's a shame that they were squandered here. G-Men won't find a way to fuck up 2 top 10 picks, right? Philly's offseason has been relatively quiet as well, but they're in a far more positive situation than their rivals. They unexpectedly made the playoffs last season, and despite a few departures on the offensive line, the Eagles are looking to make a splash on defense. They did so with Hassan Reddick. As an edge, he should be a vaunted foe in the front four. He'll pair well with Fletcher Cox, who was cut and then re-signed at a cheaper rate. Something has me wondering, though. What's their next move? They do have 3 first-round picks to play with. They were rumored to be looking at a QB, but maybe they think Jalen Hurts has more upside than he shows. There are a lot of options they can take moving forward. I'm interested to see what they do. I hate calling Washington the Commanders. It feels so sterile and hollow. Kind of like the team itself these days. Then again, never mind the previous thought. A wave of veterans now get to deal with the real-life shit of being cut. Landon Collins, Matt Ioannidis, DeShazer Everett, and Eric Flowers? Fat that needs to be trimmed off the cap. They need to bring in the next golden calf to slaughter on FedEx Field's vaunted turf. A man who the NFC East knows all too well. A once holy deity that has been resurrected with the sewage leaking out of stadium pipes everywhere. That's correct. Carson Wentz. Now Philadelphia will continue to reap the benefits of drafting him 2nd overall. With how he shit the bed in critical situations for Indianapolis, this is almost as sweet as winning the Super Bowl for them. Even better, Washington not only took on the entirety of his bloated contract, but they traded legitimate assets for him. 2 third-round picks. For a quarterback Indy was desperately trying to get rid of. Nice panic move, boys. I can't wait for Wentz to pad his stats only to somehow fail miserably when he's needed to perform in some matter of competence. Everyone learns somehow. Perhaps this is why Anheuser-Busch pulled out of sponsoring the team. Chicago is a year behind schedule. What they should have done in the 2021 offseason is what they're doing now. And it's thanks to a fluke 7th seed. The fate of self-destruction comes for every team that fancies itself as far more than what they are. The Bears are no different. Dirty bombs were activated at Soldier Field. They've somehow made the stadium prettier than it once looked. Khalil Mack was their prize acquisition a few seasons ago, but now is the time to shed his contract. The Chargers will take him on for a song, so Khalil, you were a great soldier, but you can't stay healthy. Goodbye, sir. The likes of Allen Robinson and Eddie Goldman, they're gone too. The rebuild will begin, but they're not actually rebuilding what they need to. Their offensive line is still hot garbage. Their answers to aid Justin Fields' development are Byron Pringle and Equanimous St. Brown. Bears are seriously going to reinstate the killing fields, aren't they? I guess they haven't lost their ability to ruin quarterbacks. The Lions know what they need to do, and that's next to nothing. Their fixes will come from the draft and development. So when they prepare for the inevitable second pick, they choose to sign DJ Chark. This is apparently the equivalent of going to heaven to him. When Detroit is considered paradise, you know you're a shitty organization. I can't believe that the Lions are a more favorable place to play for someone. It'd be more than that. Keep going, you're on the right track. We'll see you again come draft time. Hard knocks in the 2024 draft, here we come! Welcome to Cap Hell, Green Bay. You knew that last year was the best shot you had of securing another ring, and you failed miserably. Congratulations, here's your inevitable talent shedding. The Aaron Rodgers question has reached final jeopardy. What would he do this offseason? Would he stay in Green Bay or would he begin Brett Favre's world retirement tour? All of Wisconsin waited with bated breath as to what he would decide for his future. For a man who says he doesn't like drama, he sure likes to relish in it. That's enough torture for 1 month. Aaron is staying put at Lambeau, where he will lead the Packers to a brutally disappointing playoff exit at home yet again. But this time he's getting paid even more in bonuses to do it. In fact, things have been good for Green Bay. Robert Tonyan, Devondre Campbell, Randall Cobb, and Rasul Douglas, they're all back. The cap crunch forced them to cut Za'Darius Smith, but Rashawn Gary's coming into his own. Shit, they saved enough that they were able to franchise tag Devontae Adams. Too bad that Adams doesn't want to play on it, and for very good reason. When Christian Kirk is getting $18 million a year, why the fuck should you settle? So negotiations went underway, but a deal couldn't be done here. He had to be traded off to the sultry landscape of Vegas for draft picks. A bitter end for a tumultuous relationship. Let's get something clear, money was never the issue here. Green Bay offered Devontae as much as Vegas did, but he wanted to leave. So off he goes in the greatest casualty the Packers have seen since Brandon Bostic on that onside kick. But Green Bay, I have a question to ask. Adams, MVS, and St. Brown are gone. Who is Rodgers going to be throwing to? Alan Lazard? Randall Cobb? Tom Grassi? Just give me some fucking answer. Minnesota's being pulled in all directions. They should be a lot better than what they are. They're undergoing a much-needed executive overhaul, and signs point to being ready to dismantle and retool the lineup. But it seems like they aren't. It might make sense considering how terrible the NFC looks on paper. Kick the can down the road, you never know what's gonna happen. Danielle Hunter was rumored to be cut due to an upcoming roster bonus, but common sense prevailed and he was paid accordingly. You know what? Why not one-up Green Bay in the process? Za'Darius Smith is available, so lock him up and let him meet everyone at the quarterback. If they somehow manage to stay healthy. Despite all of this, the questions still linger. What's going to happen with the most hated Viking? Have you ever wondered what it's like when a couple has just given up on trying and is simply together out of convenience? This is where the Kirk Cousins saga continues. Neither side seems to be benefiting from this relationship. Minnesota is going nowhere and Cousins is still mocked throughout the football world. But nothing can break the love between two parties afraid of a divorce. You can always do worse, you know. Why not extend Cousins for another year? It won't do much for their championship efforts, but it'll help them avoid the inevitable. Once again, you can always do worse than Kirk Cousins. A hell of a lot worse. One of the biggest torments of Falcon football over the past 5 years has been their complete inability to recover from 28-3. It has tormented them at every conceivable angle. The only way to start to heal from it is a complete enema. As much as you'd hate to admit it, missing out on Deshaun was the best thing that could have happened to Atlanta. Acquiring him for a King's Haul of picks wouldn't have done anything to solve the massive issues surrounding the team right now. They'd have been trapped in a vicious cycle of mediocrity. What does signing Leonard Fournette and Jarvis Landry do when you don't have any semblance of a defense? However, this is far from the cost of trying to go big game hunting. Trying to poach a predator has led the franchise face to be a conscientious objector. Matt Ryan was quietly scuttled away to Indianapolis. The franchise face for almost 15 years is gone. and all for the low price of a third-round pick and an over $40 million dead cap hit. It was sadly inevitable, but still stings. Ryan should have a ring, but the scars of 28-3 burn instead. The team has finally been purged of most of that core. Atlanta can finally begin to heal. They'll do it with Marcus Mariota as a stopgap QB and a game plan that's over 90% Kyle Pitts and Cordarrelle Patterson. I would say that Calvin Ridley may be coming back from Exodus, but what's this? Uh-oh, looks like Calvin was betting on games during his absence. You know damn well what this means. It's time to take a little spin, Mr. Ridley. Do the honors. Oh no, a season-long suspension. That's too bad, Calvin. You bet $11 million on a $1,500 parlay. Perhaps you should have considered beating a woman. Maybe then the suspension would have been more in your favor. Standards. In this league? What are you, crazy? It's more fun to spin a wheel. Carolina is currently in the stage of their rebuild where they chose to try and read the directions in Pigeon. A hilariously awful situation that has somehow gotten even more hilariously awful. They tried to go after Deshaun Watson as well, but like most things that happen with the Panthers, they failed miserably. So what's the answer at QB? They certainly can't expect to trot Sam Darnold out there again and be taken seriously. Any guy they draft at the position would certainly be a project. Did they get desperate and throw shit for Jimmy Jesus to be in the same damn situation? Or do they just punt everything and finally free CMC from this hell? They did sign Johnny Hekker, so punting should be damn good for them at least. Extending DJ Moore and Dante Jackson and signing Matt Ioannidis, Bradley Bozeman, and Corey Littleton helps too. Somewhat. New Orleans really needed Deshaun. You could have made a strong argument that bringing him in would have not only revitalized the Saints, but potentially swung open their championship window again. They were damn close to getting him as well, but in the end, Watson chose to go elsewhere. Being that deep over the cap again has its consequences. And while they did restructure a ton of contracts to become compliant, they did end up losing Marcus Williams and Teron Armstead. With the addition of Marcus May and the subtraction of Daniel Sorensen, the Saints are kinda lost. What do they do from here? They tried to go bold, so you might as well kick the can down the road a little bit longer.
Hey, Jameis! You want to come back for another year or two? We'll let you move your food truck next to Cafe Du Monde?
We all wish for the Buccaneers to die, but they will not. As everyone else implodes around them, Tampa Bay merely recollects those they are about to lose. Worried about losing the likes of Chris Godwin, Ryan Jensen, and Leonard Fournette? Don't be. They're all back into the fold. In a further attempt to torment Atlanta, here's Russell Gage signed as a free agent. As we all wait to see if Gronk's body will allow him to play for another year, Ali Marpet has chosen to retire off into the sunset with a ring and his body intact. The true successes in life. So with all of these players returning... Oh god. Don't tell me he's back. I thought we killed him!
Are you fucking kidding me? We buried this asshole in 50 inches of solid concrete! We severed the head and the penis at the same time! We shrouded his body in enough garlic to kill every vampire from ear to tip but fucking toe! How the hell is he still alive?
Excuse me. Well then, if it's a soul you want to revive, then you must sacrifice one as compensation. We'll take Bruce Arians as fair penance. No, we're not gonna kill him. We're not that awful. We're just gonna send him to a place in the front office. Todd Bowles is your new head coach. Thank you for shopping at the Devil's Bargain Outlet. As we all know, whenever Arizona doesn't outright shit the bed in the regular season, that is cause for celebration for the Bidwells. Cliff Kingsbury's teams may collapse every goddamn year, and Steve Keim hasn't proven he can build a consistent winner, but this season was good enough to extend them both. Have fun with that, Cardinals fans. You know what? Have fun with Kyler Murray's endless screaming into the wind as well. In between deleting everything off social media and releasing a word salad via his agent, Kyler was trying to say something, but I ain't reading all that shit. Maybe he didn't like the Cardinals executive that all but called him a bitch off the record. Despite this random blip of drama, things seem to have been patched up on this front. Keywords here are seem to be. On the free agent front, not as bombastic as Kyler's social media exploits. Mostly minor moves, extending James Conner, and shedding a ton of pieces to other teams. I hope you have a decent plan in place to replace them all, Arizona. Chandler Jones was pretty good for you last year, you know. You can bitch and complain about the Rams' lack of care for their long-term future until you turn blue, but it doesn't matter. They want a ring? It erases every single doubting question regarding their methods. And while few in LA really give a shit about the Rams but more about city superiority, they will look to continue this trend. Matthew Stafford has erased the stat pad for meme, much to the sadness of stale joke lovers everywhere. His reward for this conquering is a handsome extension that should be able to get him a 3-bedroom house near Beverly Grove. They had nearly brought Von Miller back into the fray as well, but money talked in Buffalo, and he was paid handsomely over there. You know what they do need, however? Allen Robinson, a quality wideout whose price was depressed thanks to simply being a Chicago Bear. He should pair very nicely in the system, and the Rams are doing everything they can to run it back. Do you remember those rumors of Sean McVay potentially retiring? It was good comedy, right? He's back for another go-around as well. Must be a nice problem to have. I'm honestly jealous. By the way, here's Bobby Wagner to further torment Seattle. The 49ers have a few good problems to have. They have a young core, they have exciting talent, and a skill surplus of positions that the league needs. Even then, you know that San Fran's not going to rest on their laurels. They're going to try everything they can to bring a Lombardi to Santa Clara. Why not Charvarius Ward? The Niners do need help at corner, and Ward is pretty good, so definitely worth the price of admission. But what about Jimmy G? We were told that there would be plenty of suitors pining for his services in the offseason, and he'd fetch a decent return. Only problem is that he's still here. Once again, not exactly a bad problem to have, but now we'll be forced to suffer through the endless hot takes of if Trey Lance is a bust because a quarterback now has to be good right off the bat. Fuck development, I want a franchise QB now! ESPN really has done horrible things to sports discourse. There were signs littered throughout the past season. Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, or perhaps both will be on their way out after flattening into nothing. Seahawks fans tried to ignore it, I don't blame them. Nobody wants the greatest stretch in team history to officially end. However, now the time has come to pay their due. Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner, two of the longest tenured faces of the franchise, are gone. Dwayne Brown and Carlos Dunlap are also released into the wild. It's a dark and gloomy day in Seattle. Russ may have gotten an excellent return from Denver, but it doesn't matter. A great era is over. Even for their successes, they will get no sympathy for their plight. I want you to look at this play. This is their legacy. This is the only thing that anyone will remember the Seattle era by in the future. And that's saying something considering this team won a goddamn Super Bowl ring. This play is a microcosm for one reason and one reason alone. Unmet expectations. This team could have been a potential dynasty, yet they overthought it and tried to be too damn cute when it mattered. Now the Seahawks are merely drifting into an abyss. They lack vision, direction, or any sort of modern thinking in their brass. Pete Carroll and John Schneider are still here. Great. What the fuck have they done over the past few seasons to merit it? Seattle knows what they need to do, but they won't. You have to wipe the slate clean. It's the only way things can heal. All you have left after this? A withered husk. Carroll should know a thing or two about that.
Looking to the end zone for the win! He caught it! Ball game! Chiefs to the championship game!
These two guys know each other. Unbelievable. This is just unfathomable. The Bills had won this game.